Hello Rotarians, Rotaractors, and people of action. My name is Thomas Paul and welcome to Rotary Project Manager, a podcast about project management from the perspective of Rotary and volunteer organizations. So to start off this podcast, I think we need to answer a couple questions, and probably the first one that might seem a little bit simple but is worth asking is, what is a project? Now, to a Rotarian, we think of projects as one thing. We probably when it comes to mind is service projects. But in its purest form, a project is really just a temporary endeavor where people work together for an outcome, or a result, or a product, or a service. They all have a beginning and they all have an end. And just because something is temporary in nature doesn't mean it's necessarily something that's going to be quick. Some projects can take years, where others may only take a few hours. But the most important thing to remember about a project is there is an end game. There's a beginning and an end. Now, in the project management world, there's a divide between projects and operations. And this line can get a little bit blurry. However, in the Rotary world, I wouldn't worry too much about what that line means, because a lot of the skills that we use in operations are transferable to projects, and vice versa. Project skills can be used in operations. Now, when Rotarians talk about projects, like I said, we're normally talking about service projects that we do in the community and around the world. And a lot of the material about projects and project management on Rotary's website is about service projects. But projects are happening everywhere. They're happening everywhere in our lives, in our professional lives, and at Rotary. Planning a vacation, that's a project. Planning and running a fundraiser, that's a project too. So as we talk more about projects, let's keep our minds open to the more broader definition of projects. I know in our Rotary world, we may quickly get ourselves into the box of thinking about service projects. But remember, projects are really anything that's any kind of temporary endeavor where people are working together for an outcome. There's a beginning and there's an end. But just because something's temporary doesn't mean it's necessarily short. Some projects can take years. Let's also remember that many of the skills and tools that we talk about in projects can also be used in operations. Okay, so, we've talked about what a project is. So what is project management? So project management is less about actually doing the work and more about planning and executing processes that maximize the positive impact of projects. Notice I use the word impact, a Rotary buzzword for sure. As Rotarians, we're generally hands-on. We like to get in there and start doing the work. So if you think about it from a project management perspective, this is where the line can get a little blurry again. Applying project management skills and tools may come across as a bit bureaucratic or an extra step. But remember, these tools, these skills, these new ways of managing projects are about increasing our impact. Maybe it's about squeezing a little bit more efficiency, or improving some communication, saving some money, or doing more in the same amount of time. I'm big into making skills and tools fit the group and the project, not the other way around. I'm sure we've all experienced new policies or procedures either in our personal or professional lives that on paper they look really good. But in reality, they're a mess. They don't make any sense. So I think another theme of this podcast, especially to volunteer organizations and Rotary clubs, is to be agile. And I'm using agile in the sense that be willing and able to change. So if you can imagine all the skills that you learn as a good project manager as a toolkit, you can look in that toolkit and you can pick something out that you think is going to work good for your group. You can test it out, you can tweak it, but you know what? Maybe it doesn't work. That's okay. Put it back in the toolkit and find something else. Now, when I first thought about doing this project about project management and Rotary, I chatted with fellow Rotarian Yemi Olaniyi. Now, Yemi, a certified project management professional, is an experienced banker and project manager with over 20 years of mixed career experience in finance, banking, technology, and management consulting. He previously led teams and projects in various initiatives such as digital transformation, application development, CRM, ERP, product development, process improvement, training, and change management. Yemi has a passion for social entrepreneurship, career coaching, volunteering, and community service. Yemi currently sits on the board of the Project Management Institute Nova Scotia chapter and is a fellow member of the Rotary Club of Halifax Harbour, where he serves on the Strategic Planning Committee. So again, when I was talking to Yemi about doing this podcast, he had two pieces of advice to me: projectize and simplify. Now, who better to be our first guest and to explain what he means is Yemi himself. So thanks, Yemi, for joining us on this first podcast episode. And as a Rotarian, I want to start by asking, what got you into Rotary? Tell me your Rotary story.
All right. Thank you, Tom. I think it fits into my profile. What I mean by profile, it fits into my passion, my personal philosophy in life, which is about giving back. Right from my childhood, I always like to give back. And my definition of giving back does not mean you are rich. It doesn't mean you have more than enough. No, that's not the reason behind giving back. Giving back is a philosophy, is a lifestyle. It's like being generous. It's like you like to help others. It's like you feel there's always somebody that needs something that you have in your pocket. You have $5 in your pocket. Somebody needs that $5 to do something. That's my philosophy about giving back. So I would like to give back. So now that I'm in Canada, by the way, I moved to Canada 2 years ago. So I look for organizations that could belong. I look for organizations that could enable me to give back in terms of service. And of course, the Rotary came on top of my mind. So that's my connection. I just said, okay, let me see what they are doing. Then Rotary Club of Halifax, Harbour, I saw them online and I joined.
Fairly recently, you became a certified project management professional, PMP, but you've been involved with PMI, the Project Management Institute, for several years. And then when you came to Nova Scotia, like joining our Rotary Club, you also got involved with the local chapter of PMI, Nova Scotia chapter of PMI, and beyond that, you actually joined their board. And I'm thinking, is it the same reasons you joined Rotary that you got involved with PMI at the local board level?
So I will break that into two, how my relationship with project management or my interaction with project management. I'm going to break that into two, which is one, on the professional level, then two, service, area of service, making yourself available for service. Back in my country, I joined PMI in 2011, but I wasn't that active at the chapter level or at the PMI level. I wasn't active, but I was just interested in project management, and I tried to apply project management principles to things I do. Fast forward to when I came to Canada, I wanted to see how I can contribute as well to the body of knowledge, to the project management profession, one way or the other. So I thought it's wise to just join as a member. So I joined the member of the PMI Nova Scotia chapter so that I can give back as well to the society. I can give back to the industry, to the knowledge in that industry, because there's also an opportunity for me to learn. No intention of leading. Election thing came up. I applied. I got screened, and they voted for me. So, boom, I'm part of the board. So I'm a director right now with PMI Nova Scotia chapter. And like I said, it's all about giving back. It's not about benefit, but it's about giving back. And I'm involved in the chapter of everything that we do, starting from training, networking session, meeting, coordination, and things like that,
So this next question might be a simple one to answer. And my question is, by nature, are Rotarians project managers?
That's a very, permit me to use the word intelligent. That's a very intelligent question. It's deep, it's diverse, and my answer is yes.
And I totally agree. I think that Rotarians are project managers. They might not define themselves as project managers. And even I think about my past experience doing or working on projects. If someone said, "Oh, are you a project manager?" I'd say I don't really label myself that way. But I'd like to get back to kind of where we started this conversation, and where actually you and I started this conversation. And when I was talking to you about how to talk about project management to a Rotary audience, to a volunteer organization audience, and you said, "Oh, it's simple. You teach projectize and simplify." And I'm wondering if you can explain to us what does it actually mean to projectize?
It's just trying to make it simple, all right? Because many people, when they hear the word project management or project manager, they try to make it sound technical, something very technical, something very complex, but it is not so. Project management, it's a profession, is an ideology you can use to solve many problems that we face in our world. problems we face in the society, in our home, in our personal life. So that's the way I carry project management. That's why I said, I told you that day, I said, to get things done, projectize and simplify. Any idea that you think it's lovable, any good initiative, anything that sounds like it's temporary in nature, and anytime you want something done, just have that, wear that cap of a project manager. What does it take? You don't need to go to school to know what to do. It's just to say that, hey, what am I doing here? You're talking about scope. What do we need to do here? What do we need to get fixed? You're talking about scope. How much does it cost? If there's money involved, you're talking about budget, your cost. Who are the people that I need to get this thing done? 2 people, 3 people? You're talking about resources already. You're talking about how you can build your team. What are the potential, challenges that we're likely to face? What are the potential risks that we're likely to face? What are the stumbling blocks that we're likely to face in doing this? You're already talking about risk management. Those are the things a regular project manager, that's what they do on a daily basis. So you're already projectizing any idea you can think of, whether it's in Rotary Club or anything.
And what does it mean to simplify?
So when you simplify, all those buzzwords, all those artifacts, those models, those methods, those principles, you are bringing them in a way that a layman can understand and run with it. Who is a layman? Let's say an average Rotarian that is not even a project manager, is not certified, is just earning project management for the first time. It doesn't matter. What we're interested in is the interest. Do they have interest in getting this thing done? Yes. So you that you are coordinating the show, simplify these terminologies, all this method, this artifact, this buzzword, bring it home in a way that they can understand and join you. That's what you need to say, simplify.
You brought up some really important points there that we're going to talk a lot more into this podcast, like scope, budget, and risk, all really important things. But I want to hit on, you and I are advocates of good project management. And when we speak to Rotarians, they might say, well, we've been doing these projects for years and years and years. Like, why are these new skills and these new methodologies important? And I think Rotarians, a way to kind of explain this to Rotarians is to use the word impact. And impact is a really common word we use in Rotary. But what do you think? Do you think impact is the way to explain good project management to Rotary clubs?
So project management tools, project management ideology, or the processes, if we can employ that into what we do at the Rotary level, it's going to make us to be more efficient. It's going to make us to make more impact. That's the whole essence. It's not enough to just think that we've been doing this for years and it's been working. So why are we now bringing new tools? Why not? You need new tools. If I want to ask you now, maybe I want to ask you, how long have you been driving?
Yeah, I have to think about this, but I think I got my initial license in 2004.
Okay. Did you use manual gear before? Manual gear kind of.
Yeah. I learned on manual.
You learned on manual, all right. I did the same thing on manual, and I drove manual car for a long time. So when the world is turning to automatic cars, right? Everybody just buying automatic cars. So when you tested automatic car, did you enjoy it? Did you find it better?
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Okay, so if I ask you now to go back to manual driven car, would you like it?
Yeah, I really do enjoy driving an automatic. It's quite a nice experience, especially if you have to drive a manual in a hilly city or like Halifax or maybe in traffic. So
what are we saying? There's room for improvement in anything that we do in today's world. In short, today's world is so agile, it's so disruptive that but something is working is not enough to just say you are fine. Something can be working and you are still vulnerable. So bringing project management ideology to Rotary or to our project is going to make us to deliver faster. That's what we're saying. It's going to make us to achieve faster and be more efficient.
So you mentioned agile, and I'm a big fan of the word. From the project management perspective, I think the agile methodology is a great tool to attack, challenges that are a little less predictable. But also from the general term about being agile and managing change, do you think agile from a Rotary's perspective is a tool that can be used to help a Rotary club in general in project management?
In project management, there's something called agile as well. It's talking about approach. There are two popular approaches in project management. The first is predictive approach. Predictive approach means you can lay your plans up front. You can define how you want to do things and begin to do them in milestone, in stages, doing one after the other. That's like the predictive way. There's also the non-predictive way, which we call the agile way, of doing things, of running projects. The old agile methodology started like over 40, 50 years ago. It started in a software development environment by saying that, hey, every year we build software. It takes us too long time to deliver from start to finish. Even by the time we finish, maybe the market has changed. So therefore, there must be a smart way of doing things. That's where the whole idea of being agile, agile methodology came on board. So what agile is saying is that we got to be smart, we got to be fast on what you are doing. How can you be fast? It doesn't mean you are running. What it means is that you are proactive rather than being reactive. Two, it means that you're also working with the clients. The client, we're talking about your customers. We're talking of the users of that product that you're trying to build. You are involving the client on what you're doing so that you don't have to finish before the client will not come and test or taste what you have delivered, but that the client is involved from day one in case there are changes along the line. You can incorporate changes. That's a part of agile. It allows changes to be made based on the market, based on the response. Also, it focuses on interaction, it prioritizes interaction over tools, over those jargons, over those technologies and applications that you want to use. It focuses on the interaction within the team. You are the project manager or the scrum master, you have the business analyst or QA somewhere or software developer. You are working together continually with understanding. That's what Agile is talking about. If you bring Agile to the conventional world, we are taking it beyond software now. We're taking it beyond just technology. We're taking it to our world that we live today now. At Rotary level, applying Agile methodology is also one of those things that we can do. It means that we are predicting the future. In short, we are rewriting our own future. How we want to see things. We're already addressing climate change. We are localizing it. We're bringing it to our level. We are addressing hunger. We are thinking of rain impact. How is it likely to impact me? The agile people will be thinking, what can we do? And things like that. So that's how you can understand agile outside that software development, outside the technology.
That's perfect. You really touched on what it is from the PMI agile perspective to the kind of a layman's term of what agile is. And I think more Rotarians will probably understand what predictive or waterfall project management means if we look at it on a spectrum. So on the far side, you have this predictive type of project management where all the knowns are kind of known. So if you were going to build a deck as an example, you know your schedule, you know your budget, you know your materials, you know your available resources. And you, right from the beginning, you can plan that whole process out. But where it gets a bit difficult is when you don't know what the end result is or how you're going to get there. You know there's knowns, but there's also known unknowns and unknown unknowns. So in situations where you really don't know how you're going to get to your finished product or even what that finished product is going to look like, you can't use predictive project management methodologies. You can't use a waterfall because you can't sit right from the beginning and plan every step, every budget, every decision, every schedule. It's just not possible. A term we haven't really spoken about yet is the hybrid model. And I think what hybrid means is you sit somewhere on that spectrum. On one side, you have the hyper predictive. On the other side of the spectrum, you have the hyper agile. And most projects sit somewhere in between because some things you might know, and that's kind of leaning towards the predictive form of project management. But then there are things you don't know, so you have to lean towards the agile side of project management. And so I think most projects today are actually forms of hybrid. So hopefully as the podcast continues, we're going to start talking about some of these skills that are going to help Rotary clubs and Rotarians and volunteers manage projects where the final outcome really isn't clear. Because you have to start at day one and start planning and managing your project. And you have to understand what you know and what you don't know. And as you move through your project, you're going to obviously build knowledge, but you have to apply some agile skills, some predictive skills to kind of get you to that end game.
What I would say is it's not about what approach that we use in Rotary that determines our success. It's not about whether it is agile, hybrid, or waterfall. No. That's not what matters. What matters is that number one, we have to see things from the project lens, from project management lens. That's the starter. Can we all, I'm talking of everybody, as a member or you are part of the initiative, can we see this thing from project lens, project management lens, project management point of view? Everybody has been involved in project at one time or the other. So what we're saying is that let's wear that cap into what we do at Rotary level, because Rotary is an organization. We can't afford to fail. We have to do it better than what we do in our homes. That's what we're saying. Projectize things, right? One fundamental truth is that we have to know where we're going to embark on a journey. You dare not embark on a journey without even knowing where you want to go to. It could be far, I understand that, but you must know where you're going to. We have to know what success looks like on every project before we start. What do I intend to achieve? What's going to be the benefits? Who are the beneficiaries? If you can't answer these questions, that project is not worth starting. That means you're not ready to start. Define success, define your outcome before you even start. Don't start and start looking at, how can I adjust and things like that. I'm of the school of thought that believes that everything is measurable. Anything is measurable. So just understand your inputs, your outputs, and your outcome. Projectize, simplify, come up with your metrics before you start. Have your minimum criteria, or you call it checklist, or definition of ready before we start. And we're going to be fine. We're going to become a Rotary club that others want to copy, not just other Rotarians, but other organizations, they want to copy what we're doing.
I'd like to ask you what your thoughts are on the concept of the way of working. I know PMI, Project Management Institute, has embraced this concept of selecting the tools and skills that you need to run your project.
There's something called tailoring right now in project management. Tailoring. It's like you want to tailor your clothes. PMI has embraced tailoring. What's tailoring talking about? Just the way we started this conversation today, we said simplify, make things simple at the to-do project. Let's say you want to apply project management into what we do. Of course, you could have 10 knowledge areas in project management when it comes to the PM book itself, the book. 10 knowledge areas, 5, phases, the initiating, the planning, the execution, monitoring and control, closing. You could also have 49 processes. You can begin to apply that at the Rotary level. You're going to scare people away. So what tailoring is saying is that understand each project from its context and the environment and apply what works. Just pick some of these processes that you can adapt to fit that kind of situation. That's what tailoring is talking about. Example, you gave me you mentioned school feeding program the other time. Let us assume that we have a checklist that has like 10 rules, or 10 things to follow to do that. Let's say we want to do environment, want to do pick me up. They kind of pick me up, want to pick the garbages in a certain community. The two projects, they don't look alike. You can't say because we already have a project management manual, so we're going to apply project management manual to pick me up or to environmental kind of or sanitation or so. No. So what we're saying is that customize what will work for you based on the situation, based on the context, based on the environment, and of course, based on the resources that you have.
And our listeners may not be familiar with the PMBOK guide. The PMBOK stands for Project Management Book of Knowledge. It's a publication. It's the flagship publication of PMI, Project Management Institute, about project managing. And even though it's slimmed down over the years, it is hundreds and hundreds of pages. And if you use that as your first resource to learn about project management, and you open up this book, you think, how am I ever going to implement all this stuff into my projects? This is huge.
Oh, sure. So that's it. Project management principle is so flexible that just pick what will work for you and just apply it, to your situation. Just fine tune it to what you think will work for you.
Yemi, thank you so much for being our first guest on our podcast and talking to us and giving us a great overview of project management, bit of perspective on PMI, Project Management Institute, different methodologies, and Rotary, and kind of tying it all together. And all I can say is thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. I want to encourage, many people to embrace project management as much as possible. Project management is something that we all need. It's something that can apply to anything in this world. Any goal you have as individuals or as a family or in your business. And like I said initially, your title doesn't have to be a project manager to begin to do project management work. I want to emphasize that. It's not about your title. No, it's about responsibility and goals that you have to deliver. It saves money. It makes us to be more efficient. It delivers outcomes faster and better. It makes us happier. That's the way. People like to see their results. It's everything. So thank you for your time today. I appreciate it as well. Thank you for inviting me for this podcast.
I can't thank Yemi enough for being our first podcast guest. It was a real pleasure to talk to him about project management. Now, we talked about a lot of different things, and it may seem a little overwhelming to folks, especially if you're new to project managing. Don't worry. As we go forward into future episodes, we're going to be talking about very specific challenges that Rotary clubs and volunteer organizations have, and some of the skills and tools they can use tomorrow to maximize their impact of projects. Don't get bogged down with terminology, and don't be worried about understanding everything that we've talked about today. In general, we talked about a lot of different things, but there's a lot more to come. That's it for this episode. Thanks to Yemi for speaking with us today. You can learn more about some of the things we've talked about today and links to other resources in our show notes or by visiting rotarypm.ca. If you have a PMI certification, did you know that you can claim PDUs from listening to this podcast? Visit rotarypm.ca and click Claim PDUs. Thank you to you, our listeners, for supporting this podcast and Rotary. If you found this podcast helpful, please subscribe, share, and give us a review. We want to know how we're doing and ideas for future episodes. Check out the show notes or visit rotarypm.ca for all the details. And remember, Rotary is looking for change makers like you. There are Rotary and Rotaract clubs all around the world in most major communities. Visit rotary.org and click on the Club Finder link to see the clubs in your area. My name is Thomas Paul, and from everyone at the Rotary Club of Halifax Harbour, Rotary around the world.